Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Front Door Show brought to you by Four Fantastic Friends. I am DJ Prieto. Every day we do a one-on-one interview with somebody in the music industry. And today I have my friend Marco Hernandez, also known as DJ Marco Hernandez. so, so
Yeah, but don't get
Marco,
confused with the other ones, though.
yeah,
Don't
really.
confuse with the other Marco Hernandez's. Or my favorite. Are you DJ Marco Herrera? I'm like, nah, man. He's short. He looks like a Smurf, and the guy plays nothing but cumbias and this thing norteña. So I'm like, hey, it is what it is.
So yeah, I guess they can't figure out the difference between Herrera and Hernandez. Is
Yeah, I know. They
it's
just figured
okay.
it's the same letters and stuff. So
It's okay. When they used to see me Prieto, they would be onde. That would be always okay. So Marco,
yes.
for those people that are logging on, maybe they might not know you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell them who you are and kind of give you a little intro. While you're doing that, I'm going to create the watch party
Cool.
for
Good
this.
evening, guys. Marco Hernandez, born and raised on the north side of the city. Uh, got my start in, if you want to say, DJing. My uncle he was a part of a DJ team that was called Moonlight Disco. It was him, gentleman by the name of Carlos Valderrama, who was responsible for Rama Records. Did some stuff with Sean Christopher and a couple other artists from Chicago. And the gentleman named Frank Torres, who is the big brother to Nelson Littlehouse Torres, DJ out of Chicago as well too. So that's how I pretty much got the gist of music. He would come back from his gigs. He would never tell me any like war stories or anything, but I was like, cool. So and then whenever he went to work, I would always fool around with the stuff and uh, mysteriously needles and stuff ended up being broken, and of course I would always make up a story like Bart Simpson. It was like that when I got here. So that's how it started, and I almost dug out like the first records that they gave me, which was a copy of Chic's Dance 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 and a copy of Miko's Gold. It was the Wizard of Oz record. I got those two from my aunts. They probably took them from my uncle. Those are the first two records that I had. And then going to grammar school, you want to be cool with your friends, and I would go to the flea markets and buy stuff, whether it was from Andre, even though if it was through Andre, he would sell stuff out of his car trunk, meaning Andre Lopez of Hot Jams, or going to an actual store at like Division Flea Market and getting whatever record. In fact, the first record I had was John Roca's "I Wanted to Be Real." Had that, and I also had the Xavier Gold, Who Used to Hold Me. That was another record that I had too. So
So
when
how old are you when this was all happening? When you were doing this um, introduction of the DJ part?
well, let's see, it must have been about like either about between 8 and 9 years old when my uncle was DJing, and I didn't know all the record stores. I mean, of course, he did. He knew like Imports Plus. He knew gramophones. He knew, and in fact, he would even go to Rose Records downtown too. He would end up getting stuff from there too. And of course, I was too young to go, and whenever I would go, it was with him, and I was like, wow, look at all these things. So throughout um, you know, grammar school, listening to the stuff, playing the music whenever I had a chance to when he was working and stuff. Then went into high school, got a job working at a car rental place. My dad was working like a little side gig. He goes, hey, they need someone to be a porter. Someone cleans the cars, takes them to go get gas. And it was just so lucky that the car rental place was right next door to Gramophone Records. So whenever I was done with the money I'd make, I would go spend it on, whatever was in the hot mixes. And that's how I met like Andy Moy and some of the guys that worked at like gramophones. Hey, what's this? What's that? And I'm
You were
sure
what?
that,
How old are you? 15, 16 years
oh
old? Is
no, we're
that
talking about like maybe like 14, 15, 16 years old. And I
Okay.
remember going to the record store, and you would have to take the record off the rack and bring it up to the counter, and you'd have to have Andy or you'd have to have Doug or Joe, one of the owners, play the record for you. That's how long ago that I used to go to gramophone. So that was that thing. And then of course, with you listening to all the mixes, you wanted to know what was this, what was that, and then of course you would have to sing the songs to whoever was there, whether it was Andy or whatever. They're like, I don't know what that is, dude. You either
Of
have to
course,
learn.
because you're not a really good singer.
Exactly, exactly. So that was that, and then high school, came and went, and I remember I had gone to Schurz and Carl Schurz High School. That's where I met a couple DJs that would be a part of my life. I met Julio. I met Luis Ramirez, and Luis had been doing parties, here and there. I remember he was doing little, parties here and there, but I never really connected with him. So then, of course, as you got older, you wanted to go out. I remember the first.
And at this point, you're not DJing
Oh
yet.
no, 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 mind you.
You're just
No,
enjoying the
I just
music.
enjoy. I
Right.
do remember right now that I'm bringing up going out. I remember the first time that I went out. It was really funny. My little brother was into breakdancing, and I was in the music because of my uncle. So we went to this event at Janelle's, the one that's on Fullerton.
Okay.
It was called the Battle of the Baby Breakers. There was a little kid. His name was Yoda. He's the one that won it. And I remember, you going to this place. I was like, cool. It's it's a little nightclub, and I got all dressed up, and all these kids are wearing all their like breakdancing clothes, and me being all dressed up, trying to be cool, but I didn't fit in. So that's the first time I went anywhere. And then, high school came and went. I ended up meeting some people besides Julio. Met a friend of mine. He was doing little gigs, wedding gigs. He goes, hey, would you mind helping me? I'm like, sure. So that's how I started DJing with him. I didn't have any equipment. He had the 1200s. We didn't have any, professional speakers. It was just whatever his dad had. We would end up using it to go do, a friend's gig or somebody's graduation party, and there was that. And then by like me hanging out with him, we got to do little bars on the north side of the city. There was a bar that was on Western and Artesian, right across the street from where the theater is right now. There was a little bar, and he had a fake ID. And I remember that he would tell the owner, listen, he's only 19 years old. We're like the same age. But he's only 19 years old.
But he's lying to the owner.
Oh, of
because
course, obviously. His ID says 21, and we're like 20, and he's over here saying, hey, he's only 19, 20 years old. He had the fake ID. So, that actually lasted maybe a year. And I remember it was hard doing the actual thing there because I think it was a biker bar. I don't remember, but I remember getting into my first bar fight because this guy came in who was a little bit intoxicated, and he's like, I don't want no Puerto Ricans here. And I come up to where he's at. He goes, didn't you hear me, man? I don't want any Puerto Ricans here. And the next thing you know, we're in a bar fight, pool sticks and everything being exchanged. And I remember me having to like crawl my ass out of the bar because that's how bad it was. So
wow.
so that was the end of that. And then we ended up playing at this little bar that was still there, no different name, but it was called Jacko's. It was on Irving Park, and I want to say Irving Park, and I'm not sure where the street it was, but me and him were DJing there, and that's where I met David Aguillo. He was there. And
David, wow.
Yeah,
I haven't
David.
heard that name in a while.
and it was me and my friend, the guy from high school, who were DJing, and then it was him, David Aguillo. So, that was cool, whatever. I was like, 21, 22 years old. So in between the time that I wouldn't have to go DJ there, we go out. I would end up hooking up with some of my high school friends, and we went out to like the cool places like China Club and Kaboom and Limelight and places like that. Of course, never wanting to really DJ, even though that my uncle's still a DJ. Well, not anymore, but he still has his equipment. And I was like, okay. So went through high school, still hung out with my friend that, got me into these little bars. And then I remember right after I left high school, I was like, okay. And then I remembered, I remember now, it's hard, my mind's to lose. I uh, I ended up finding out that Luis Ramirez was doing these parties, and they were at a place which you worked at, but it was called, well, first it was two places. Upstairs was a bowling alley called Mill Bowl, and then downstairs was called Los Rosales, which became Tropicana de Caché, Club PM, and everything. So um, prior to that event, Lewis and Leon, they were doing an event at a place on Dearborn Street that was called Linda Margaritas. And I remember I went there and I had just hanging out. And yeah, they were doing their new wave of Spanish rock. It was barely even, like existent. They were playing whatever was popular, Mana, whatever. And then I basically had met Leon when I would go to Medusa's because, when you were like, if you didn't want to go or you couldn't get into the actual 21-year-old clubs, you'd go to Medusa's. And I had met Leon when I had gone to Medusa's through passing through a female friend or somebody. And I seen him. He was the only person that I knew was at Linda Margaritas. I go, listen, man, I don't want to be a jerk or anything, but can I come in and play for you? He goes, sure. So the next event he did have on Milwaukee Avenue at Los Rosales. He goes, hey, man, I'm sorry. Come back to our next event and I'll let you play. And that's how I ended up starting with them. Back then, it was Enrique Tobayas, Ricardo Padilla, Julio, and Pablo was part of the team as well, too. And then they would have, from time to time, they would have a gentleman by the name of Roberto Lara come in and play with us. And they would alternate. And then once Ricardo and Enrique left, that's when David Del Campo came in and, Dinamico, and then that's when Duende came in. And that, that's how they had their parties, they had their DJs. And then there was always competition between, Lewis and Leon and Frank Monroy and his little posse, which from now at this point it will be called the Evil Empire.
I guess that's what they used to call each other, right? I mean,
so there was always competition. We would have our little base, which was the Village Cafe, which is on Western and Grand. He would do events there. It was always one floor. It was always one floor, and then I don't know what they did. They ended up clearing out the basement, and I would open upstairs. I would play like alternative, and then once it got 11, 12 o'clock, we would have guest DJs. Like I can show you one of the flyers here that's got, if I can find one of these things, where like we would have like for instance, this is a flyer, which is in commemoration of, so if you see the flyer, it actually has, see me over here, and it has David Aguirre, and we were playing underground, and they have all the other people upstairs, like, Pablo Gonzalez, Duende, Dinamico, and whatever. So that's how it worked. Like I would end up playing early just so that.
Is that where I first met you? Was that the Village Cafe? Is
Yes.
that the official, because that's where I think I met almost everybody on that flyer was the first time, because that was my introduction to walking up to Leon and asking, because at that time I was playing on the south side at Pirámide Azteca. And I walked into Leon, and Leon was so generous and kind to introduce me to everyone, as far as DJ wise and stuff like that. So you were playing with Viva Promotions at that time.
Yes, I was, and it was Anthony, Lewis, and Leon.
Okay.
And then they decided to go their little separate ways, and Anthony was like, "Hey, you want to come work with me?" I said, "Sure." So that's where Anthony started doing his little parties. Here's one of the flyers right here. And in this flyer, it was at Alcatraz. As you could see, got Robert Lara here, Julio, and it's got me. I'm playing disco and dance, and this is at Alcatraz.
Okay.
With Al, Al Cisneros. And then he would do little events. Like there's another event that he did here. He had me, he had Enrique Tobayas, he had Tim Taylor, who worked with Al and other people, which I'll get to in a little bit, and me is at Alcatraz when Anthony did events. So that only lasted for a little bit, and then I went back to working with Lewis and Leon. And then Lewis and Leon, well, actually, Lewis was doing other events with a guy named Ziggy D. And I began to work with Lewis, and a gentleman named Raul Cardona, and we were the people that helped him do all his events, all the Freestyle Mania, all the Polo Club gigs, and I remember going out late at night, putting up posters, putting up banners and whatnot, so on and so forth. And at these events, I got to meet people. Like I got to meet Ziggy D, I got to meet Tim Taylor, and I got to meet Ed Santos, better known as Mr. Wonderful. But he was doing DJing and he was doing security.
Right. So before, let me pause you for there.
Yeah.
But you also with Lewis
Yes.
and Viva Promotion, when you're working at the Village Cafe, is that when you came out with your first mixtape?
Okay. Lewis, I mean, I don't know if it was because somebody else did something, but he had the idea to make a mixtape. So I said, okay, what do you want me to do? He goes, I want you to do.
And that was during the time that you were playing with Village Cafe, right?
And this is the tape. It's a still single copy, which you could see. There's actually two versions of it. There was one that was blue, see-through, and there was one that was white. This is the blue one.
What is this? What is the title of that?
It's the official classic alternative and rock and Espanol mixtape. It's done by me. One side and the other side is Dinámico. There was only tapes. Wasn't no CDs. It was
right.
So that was the beginning of all the releases that we made. So then, of course, the Evil Empire started making their little tapes, Diablo. So Lewis is like, I'm gonna get these guys, and then he came out with this first press, La Mejor de Rock, made by Dinámico and Duende. Dinámico did pop rock, I think a little bit of rock, and Duende did all rock. That was one.
Okay.
So then after that, Lewis is like, okay, we did well with number one. Let's do number two, La Mejor de Rock Part 2. Again, strictly Dinámico. Then it came out with another one, Volume 3, La Mejor de Rock. And then that's when I think it was you that hit into the game that came out with this, La Mejor de Rock CD, with a mix. I think it was made by me, or if not by David Aguilo, but it was just a little like a little side.
Okay, so just in case people don't understand that, let's break it down for them about the bonus mix, right? Because in technical terms, we had 30 minutes on each side of the tape.
Yes.
That's part 1 and part 2 of the tape. But on the CD, it's actually 74 minutes. So you had a 12-minute or
gap,
15, 20-minute gap that you could add the bonus track to it. And that was where you're talking about the CD, and that the bonus track was
exactly.
Exactly.
So so that's when they came to me. They're like, "Hey, you want to make a mix?" I'm like, "Sure." And I remember going to the place where we made this tape, which was a store on Harlem Avenue. Party boy Pete Garcia did this mix, and that's where we did it. That's on Harlem Avenue. And when we did the bonus mix, that was with Joe Payback Pabone, and it was at their studio. I'm not sure where it was at, but that's where I did that mix. Did it on a DR4, and we did the this mix on the DR4 as well too. So that was cool. And then I was working with Lewis and Leon, and then I remember one night we were at Tempo, and you can probably chime in on this because maybe you know the guys. A gentleman named Luis Lopez, forgot what company he was under, but he was working with 720. He goes, "Hey, they're looking for a DJ." Luis is like, "Who's your man?" So that was when I started, working at a nightclub. And And
you were working Tuesdays, right? You were working.
No. This was just playing on the weekends, and then whenever they had a special event. And I remember they had the what's that? They had the Democratic Convention, for President Clinton. And I remember the song that was really popular then was Macarena. And I remember every single 5 to 10 minutes, they're like, hey, can you play that? Can you play it? I'm like, I just played it. And they were doing it down like on TV. They had the president and everybody doing it because that was the most popular song back then. So I was playing that, and then always loomed overhead the Evil Empire. And they came in during a time, and I remember how it was on their first night. I was there from like 9 to maybe like 12 or something. And I remember Frank Monori came into the DJ booth. He goes, okay, I got my boy here. He gets on the mic. He goes, hey, that was DJ Marco, and now this is our DJ. He played for an hour or two, and I was just hanging out downstairs. Ed comes in, Ed Tunney from 720.
720, yeah.
And he goes, hey, what's this guy playing? I go, that's their DJ. He goes, get him off right now. I'm like, Ed, he's like, I don't care, get him off. So got him off, started playing whatever the popular music was, and that didn't sit well with them at all. They were like, no, and that was the last time that I worked at 720. Not because of them, it was just I think I had my run. It was a year. So then that's when I had known Al Cisneros because of working with Ziggy and Lewis and Leon doing other events. So Al had started doing a night. He did a gay night, which started at the Polo Club, which was on Milwaukee and Belmont. So it was a gay night. And I remember the first night that we did it, it was me, Ed Santos, who he goes under the name Mr. Wonderful. And
he's online too right now. So
cool. So it was me, Mr. Wonderful, and then my friend David Aguilo. And I remember there was maybe like 5 people the whole entire night. But it was just nonstop music. It was great. So that's when at the end of the night, and I remember someone that came, I had like met her. Al was like, look, you guys came, thank you. The next event we're gonna do, I'm gonna give you guys tickets or passes to go invite all of your friends. So that next event was at the Barón Rojo, which used to be a different name. It was on Milwaukee and Sacramento.
Right.
But that was the Barón Rojo. And I know there was a different name before. I don't remember.
God. You threw me.
Something Palace.
It was a salsa club before.
Yes, I remember that. So
someone will comment on it, what it was.
So then that was that. And that was cool, you know. We were there for a little bit. And then he went over to the Royal, which was on the corner of Milwaukee and Fullerton. Now, I was there. I would play all the stuff that all the people that came to the event like back then it was popular to play Tony Braxton, play like Janet Jackson, Madonna. I would play that. Eddie would play, or Mr. Wonderful would like play house, whatever hip house, whatever booty house was popular. That was cool, and that actually lasted pretty long time. And that's when I met DJ Chicago. He would come in, and another guy named Roy Mertz would also come in, and they would open the night whenever we didn't want to come in early. So they would play from 9 to maybe 10 or 11 o'clock, and then me and Eddie would finish up the night. I would do a set of like popular top 40 stuff or the club stuff that all these kids like, and Eddie would come in and play like popular Chicago house. That was cool. And then with like all those events that I was doing the Royal stuff like that, I had got to meet a bunch of people through Lewis. And then I remember there was a time when he introduced me to a guy named Joey Swanson, white boy that was on a radio station called Mix 103.9. I could call it was right. But he goes, hey, I want you to meet my friend. And Joey had he had wanted to do something where he was going to make up a fake prank call, and it like had to involve Luis Ramirez, but Luis didn't know about it. What was going to happen? I remember he actually called, and I was there when it happened, and it was like Joey made up a voice of an Indian person. He goes, "Hello, my friend. I have accident with car." Luis is like half asleep when this happens, and Luis is like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Sorry, my friend. I have accident with car. Car hurt pretty bad." And Luis is like, what's going on?" And mind you, this is all the bit. Luis doesn't know what's going on. So whatever results of that bit, Joey got his gig. So then I started working with Joey. Joey was doing once a month events at a place. It's real popular now that was called House of Blues.
And what year was this that you started working with Joey?
I want to say, let me see, I've got it written down here somewhere. I want to say let's say 1997, 98
Okay.
is when I started working with Joey. He was doing House of Blues. Then he had known the owners of a nightclub in the city because he had gone to high school with them. And I think they're gone to Steinmetz, and the name of the nightclub was Red Dog. And I remember I had gone to Red Dog before. I had like gone to go see Party Jack Master Fun. And I remember that I had gone, it was a real cool place. And I remember hearing all these DJs, and you would swear there was like going to like one of these like, Spanish DJ shows where all these guys are sending shout outs. I'm like, I don't want to hear shout outs to, Tyrone and all these guys or whatever. And then I started working with Joey at Red Dog. And then that's when I met a bunch of people, whether if it was famous DJs, and I met, Mark Grant, I met David Britton, I met Derek Carter, I met all these DJs from the city, Hector Lopez and everything. So that's when I started working there.
Well, I think you're missing a timepiece here, because you also were working with Ruben Pasmino, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or you were working, what were you doing over at Tropicana then? What were you doing at Tropicana? What, you were there a lot. I remember that. Tuesday Night Boxing.
That was when I was working with you. I was working with you. Hold on. The time span was 1998 to 1999. Now, this is why, hold on. This is why I was going to get to that. So Joey decided to go on to greener pastures, and he decided to go move to greener pastures. And then that's when I started working with you.
Okay.
You were doing your Tuesday Night Boxing, and that's when you started making your mixtapes. And I remember me and you made a little partnership, like, hey, you know how to speak Spanish well? Like, yeah, kind of. So we would go to these record stores, and I would be the salesman, and you would be there pitching your product. But
you mean you were my interpreter?
Yes. So like here I am telling them,
Wait. Well, let's stop. Wait. Because if I remember, I was at Luis Ramirez's house, and Luis is going to remember this. It was me, you, Luis Ramirez, because he was selling his mixtapes too.
Uh-huh.
And I talked to you right there. And I think Leon was there too, because we were by the pool table that Luis. Yes. And I remember I says, well, listen, because he was trying to sell his mixtapes as well. I said, listen, why don't we kill two birds with one stone? And I says, if Marco is going to be out there selling your mixtapes, because I think you used to sell his mixtapes for him as well. Mm-hmm. He says, if he's out there, he can be my translator, and we'll go together to these stores and stuff like that. Because because the way I looked at it, there was no competition. Because I had salsa merengue, and he had rock pop and alternative music. So I was like, oh, that dude. And so that's how that collaboration happened, that you were there for, because it was that it was just worked out better for everybody, because I remember that conversation was, dude, wouldn't it make sense to just, if we're going to be going to a store, let's do it together instead of being, you go in a store and then I go in a store, and it will just works out better for everybody because we could sell more pieces.
Yeah. So then, yeah, we would go to all these places, and everyone was like, "Okay, you're selling a mixtape, it's all Spanish. You don't speak any Spanish. Why? Well, you don't need to. I mean, your response is you don't need to speak any Spanish as long as you know the music."
Yep.
So I'm translating to the person like, okay, and yeah, all these people bought up the stuff.
Well, because once they heard it, it
Yeah,
was
they're
like,
like, hey, this is great, and mind you, you were like an innovator because yeah, you know, just like I was telling my dad, I found out about the whole entire lifestyle of like salsa, that you're not supposed to mix it because everybody dances on an actual beat count, which I'll get to in a little bit. So, but you were mixing this stuff and no one had ever heard it. So they're like, hey, let's go jump on this. And then you made all your series of tapes. That was great.
well,
Then
that was, and one of the things, if you remember, the people who were buying it weren't the salsa dancers that were buying it. It were people, and I'm sorry, really to say, the Southsiders were buying the tape
I know,
because
I know.
the Mexicans were buying
Yeah, because it was something new. I mean, granted, I mean, there's only so much Tigres del Norte, and there's only so much that you can listen to. You want to listen to something else besides whatever. So of course they went to that. So then at about, so then I remember I worked with you until about like 2000, maybe like 1999, 2000. And then I remembered I had gone to, was a DJ, real popular DJ in town, Derek Carter. He was doing his birthday party at a bowling alley, Diversity River Bowl. And I had met a bunch of people, working at Red Dog through Joey. Joey was, where he was at. And I happened to come across a gentleman named Reddick. He owns Dust Tracks. So he goes, hey, you still have connections with Red Dog? I said, yeah. Go see if they'd be willing to do an off night. I know they have the third floor. We could do something upstairs. I'm like, okay, cool. So I still had good ties with Red Dog, a going visit, and they were doing a hip hop night on Saturday. It was awesome, jam packed. But they also decided to give Friday nights to the same person too. They weren't doing good, so I came in and I was only going to go talk about doing like an off night, a Thursday, and William Minetti from Red Dog, his brother Teddy were like, hey, you know anyone that would want to do a Friday night? I said, sure, I have the right person. I go back to Reddick. Hey, you still want to do the night? He goes, yeah. Where's it at? He goes, well, you're not going to get an off night. You're going to get a Friday night. He's like, you're kidding me. I said, no. So they sat down and started doing his events there. Got to work with all those people that he had, all his DJs, Al Johnson, the Glen Underground, all the DJs, Tommy Sunshine, everyone that was a part of Dust Tracks. Got to work at Red Dog again. Then there was the conflict of interest with one of his employers, and I remember before this happened, Reddick was like, "Look, man, you have a chance to take this kid's job. If you want to take his job, you'll get his money, and we won't have to deal with him." So that night, there was like an argument. A DJ from the city wanted to get some like 12 inches that we had from like Dust Tracks. So Reddick had a box of some 12 inches, and whoever wanted them, there was a DJ in town, would come pick them up. And I remember the employee got mad because I didn't listen to him. So at the end of the night, I gave him a ride home, and he goes, "Dude, I'm sorry they had to do this to you, but I have to let you go." And I'm like, "Because why?" Because we had a disagreement. everybody that I know, they're like, dude, that's messed up. You brought him into Red Dog and now you got kicked out. I'm like, doesn't matter, man. I'm still gonna be here regardless. So then Reddick goes, listen, I'm gonna give you a chance to swim with the big fish. I'm gonna let you do an event. There's a catch though. It can't be dance orientated. It could be at Red Dog or it could be at Green Dolphin because, of course, they, Louis and his family owned both places. So that was the only catch. I couldn't do anything dance related. You know, I could have done new wave, but no, it was still dance related. So the only option I had left was to do salsa. Now, Tuesday nights, they were doing salsa, but they were doing it with a band. And they had a gentleman by the name of Manny Lopez teaching a class. So Reddick had me sit down with Sam, Louis' father, and sat down and I pitched the idea. I'm like, look, you guys are spending too much money with this band, and I can bring your budget down. I can bring 2 DJs who can basically play all the stuff that the band's doing, but cheaper. It's like, okay, let's go. So that's when this started. That's the first flyer of Salsa Tuesdays, and the date on it was right here. It's, I think we just passed actually yesterday was the anniversary. Yesterday was the anniversary. It was 18 years ago was when I did the night. And if you can tell, we can see this or not, we've got DJs, we got DJ Alberto Escándalo Gomez, rest in peace, and Marco Salsa Brava Hernandez, and we had the dance lessons by Orlida Colon. That started. It's cool.
Great name, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. And
I wonder where you got that idea from.
Hold on. Okay, now this is why. So I remember going out. We would go to different places. We would go to Cairo. They had a salsa night, and then we would go to Vinyl, and you know Vinyl also had a salsa night too. So I was like, let's come up with the name. Cool. But then, like I said, I had to deal with Manny that was there, and he tried to put up a fight. When I would get the emails, he would have his girlfriend, whoever was helping him, do the same thing too. And it never came to blows, never came to arguments, gentlemen like and whatever. And he finally relented and said, "Okay, I've had my time here." And he said, "Okay." I never had any problems with him. When he came in, he went when he wanted to. There's no problem. Cool. So after we started, then Alberto and Marco decided to go their separate ways because I think the pay was, they were getting paid too much, and Sam was like, try to find somebody cheaper. So that's when I got Lewis and I got Edgar, and they started playing with me.
But no, but wait. Did it? But I was working with you, wasn't I? Working with you.
You were working with me for like a little bit, and
for the marketing and stuff like that. That was
marketing.
But Albert and Albert, particularly Albert, rest in peace. Albert was the one who decided that he couldn't play for us because the evil empire, as you call them, they told him that it was a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
That's why they left. It wasn't because of the pay. It was because, and I mean, I was like, and I it was kind of a, we know it was kind of a stuck between a hard place and a rock because we were friends with Frank and we were friends with Albert. And I go, and all we can do is say, Albert, that's your call. You can do whatever you want, if and obviously since Albert was working with more days, he was like, I have to go with what Frank wishes. And I was like, okay, well, and that's where I think me and you communicated about getting the alternative DJs. And I already was working with Lewis, because Lewis and I had worked with me over at Sacetos / Infinity.
Mhm.
at the time, and I think that was the whole thing because Convent was down the street,
Yes.
or no, it was Club O. It was called Club O at that down the
Mhm.
street. Remember? And
Oxygen.
Oxygen, and we were like, and I think in Lewis's interview, we talked about it that we did not want anything ghetto.
No, no,
We
no,
wanted
exactly,
we
exactly.
wanted something a little bit higher class and stuff like that, and we were
So,
like.
and then like to like
And at the same time, do you remember that Tuesday night when I was doing the Tuesday night boxing?
yes,
Remember we had stopped and it went to Oxygen Club O,
yes, the
and
boxing one.
that's where it was on Tuesday. It was that it's just let's give another, and that's where we talked about having another choice on a Tuesday that people can be in jeans and gym shoes or
Yeah,
something
exactly.
dressed up and more. And that was the discussion that I think because we used to talk about the aspect of marketing all the time. And it says, hey, this is where, because at the time, I was still doing Club PM. I had Club PM still on Fridays and Saturdays.
Mhm.
I was doing Rancho Luna at the same time as well.
Yeah.
So helping you out on a Tuesday was like, okay, you know what? It's cool because my name's going to be attached to it.
Exactly.
At the time it was Los Cuatro Fantásticos. I think that's what it was, still Los Cuatro Fantásticos
Mhm.
at that time. And I think that's where the transition of Four Fantastic Events happened, because when I got more serious into the salsa market, I think for especially over at Green Dolphin, I was noticing that the clientele wasn't just Latinos anymore. So
No,
that's why
there
we
was a
changed.
lot of there was a lot of pardon the gringos, a lot of white people that came, and it was funny because all the guys that were doing valet, they're like, hey man, what do you do to these people that they're running to the door? I go, well, I have a guest list, and it ends at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. And these people would get there at 10:45, 10:55, and run to the door so that they wouldn't have to pay the $5 cover charge. So it started at $5. It started at $5 if you were on the guest list, and the guest list you were free. Of course, we all know, no disrespect, and you can go with this. A typical salsa crowd does not drink at all. So, and then of course, no disrespect to the instructors from Orlida, Millie, Nadia, Miguel, everybody. They don't drink when you dance. So of course, the owner was like, I need to make more money. So charge more money at the door. Started charging $10. And it was worse because these people would run, and every single day they're like, dude, you'd swear that they're giving away money or something, because once they park, they're running to the door. I'm like, why? They have to get there by 11 o'clock. So and just like Lewis mentioned in like one of his in the actual one of his interviews, I remember going to Vinyl, and I remember going to Cairo. Vinyl was, it was small. It was like Clybourne and North Avenue. It was real small, but it was cool. You had a older crowd there,
But it
and
was Wednesday nights. It was Wednesday nights
yeah,
there.
Wednesday nights, and I remember, I've heard people say, everybody said, if you go to New York, I've never been to New York for like an extra salsa night, but like people get dressed up to go out, and I don't remember what the clientele was for Tuesday nights up at Cairo, but again, it was real nice too. So, the Green Dolphin being real nice jazz club, supper club with like bands and stuff. I don't want people that were, you know, sorry for saying this, that couldn't get into Tropicana, couldn't get into Oxygen, and coming to Green Dolphin. So of course, I don't want Sam saying, "Hey, got this guy wearing gym shoes and shorts. I can't have him in here." So I remember the first time that I went to Green Dolphin, I was like, "Wow, this place is beautiful. All the wood and everything." And it's funny because I remember what Green Dolphin used to be before it was even a nightclub. Remember, um, like I mentioned, I happened to grow up like in the north side of Chicago, and I grew up in a neighborhood called Bucktown, which is not too far from Green Dolphin, not too far from Tropicana. That place, the land, was a junkyard. It used to be called Freeman's Auto. And I remember one time my dad goes, "Watch, you want to see a magic trick?" I'm like, "Sure." So we had pushed the car from where we lived at on Western and Armitage to Webster, the viaduct before you hit Green Dolphin Street. But that was a junkyard back then. So we left the car there. The next day, my dad goes, "Watch. How much you want to bet that car is going to be gone?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Let's go." So we took a drive, and sure enough, the car was gone. It was in the lot. So somebody had took it in the lot. Now, when I was, speaking to Sam, if you were to rip up the floor by the stage, they still had the jacks to rape up the car. Well, it's true. I mean, mind you, Sam never told you because, yeah, you're right. If you were to rip up the floor, you'd see you still had the jacks right by the stage to lift up the cars. So you were there for until I don't remember what year exactly, but we had a conflict of interest. And this is how it happened. You were doing your events at Rancho Luna, and it was Christmas. And you were like, "Hey, let's do it over here at Rancho Luna." And actually, it had made a lot of sense because my aunt had a townhouse walking distance from Rancho Luna. Talked to Sam. He's like, "Yeah, come out to Green Dolphin. We're going to be open." Cool. Now, to me, it made sense. I could have just walked from my aunt's townhouse, which is at the corner of Tallman and Diversey, which is walking distance from Diversey and Rockwell, which is where Rancho Luna was. But no, Sam's like, "Come to Green Dolphin. We're going to be open." So get in my car, go to Green Dolphin Street. Nobody's there. No bartenders. You got a bar back. You got the sound guy. So Sam's son shows up. "Hey, sorry, we're not going to be open." I go, "You're kidding me." He goes, "No, your dad told me otherwise." "Well, sorry, you came. You got upset. You're like, you had your opportunity, man. I'm sorry. I'm not going to work with you anymore." I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry. It is what it is." I was upset. You were upset, but it was what it was. So then, come the New Year, continue doing the event. We were there. Um, Lewis and Edgar were there, and then we decided to bring in another DJ, Carlos Latalati. Very nice guy, always played old school salsa, and we were there. We were there another, I think, 5 or 6 years. With
But I was still coming to the event though. I was
oh
still
yeah,
going.
mind you,
Yeah,
mind you, mind you. Even though that we have had conflict of interest, you still came. I mean, I mean, mind you, if it was something,
because I was, I think the reason why I stopped doing the marketing, I
Mhm.
still was going there, but I
Oh,
stopped doing
exactly,
the marketing
exactly.
because I remember I was doing Mondays at Rancho Luna, doing the salsa nights. I was doing Wednesday the gay night, Thursday the reggaeton night, Friday and Saturday. I was working both Rancho Luna and Club PM at the
Mhm.
time, and I was doing Sunday another gay night. So I had my hands full.
Exactly, exactly.
So I think it was just like it was probably more of a simple excuse. Oh yeah, you know what? That's it. I'm not going to work over there anymore
Oh no,
because
no, no. Mind you, mind you.
and
I mean,
and then I also had Circuit Nightclub too. so I was
so
I was really busy.
so and then by me being there, um, I was doing the night. But then it's funny because okay, so one of the reasons why I stopped working at Red Dog and I went back to go help Reddick was it's a gentleman, a sound guy named Eugene. He had it out for me when I worked at Red Dog. And I remember they gave him a little more power, and of course it went to his head, and he ended up using it. And I had told Joey, "Hey, Eugene just got rid of me." It's like, "You're kidding me." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "I don't know." So of course he didn't tell anybody. Of course he told Joey, but he didn't tell the owners. Now back then I was opening up because we had a third floor. I was opening up the third floor, playing at Red Dot, and I remember he didn't tell anybody that he got rid of me. Come that Friday, where's Marco? I got rid of him. Who's going to open the night? Oh, shit. That's right. Anyway, went to Green Dolphin. He was working the door with me. There was no hard feelings or whatever. So then he goes, "Hey, since you're here now, I want you to help me mix bands." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I want you to go I want you to help me, wire all these bands, wire up all the microphones, and help them. Whatever. Now, mind you, the only experience I had was DJ. You know, whether it was a Red Dog or it was working with Lewis and Leon or so on and so forth.
So
So
so he's having you become a sound engineer,
yeah,
basically.
and I go, okay. So and I don't know if he went to school. I never asked him, but and no disrespect to the owners, but they always try to find a way to cut corners and try to get something on the cheap. And I remember many of the bands were pissed off because Eugene didn't care. Yes, I understand it's his job, but he was never people friendly. And that's where I came in as being the middleman and talking to the bands. So I would go wire the stuff and I'd be the middleman, so on and so forth. Then at that same time, a couple years after that happened, Red Dog shut down. So Joey came back to town and he wanted to start doing stuff at Green Dolphin Street. So um, Eugene took it upon himself. Nobody told him this. He took it upon himself. He goes, "Hey, I want you to help me do something because we're going to start doing stuff over here." I go, "Where?" "Up at Green Dolphin Street." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We're going to take apart Green Dolphins. We're going to take apart Red Dog sound system and bring it over here." Now, mind you, Green Dolphin Jazz Club, it was small. It was intimate. It was cool. But he wanted to bring most of the sound from Red Dog over to Green Dolphin. So in the span of a little bit under a week, we bought all the sound, all the subs and tops, and we brought it in. And that's when Joey started doing Boom 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 at Green Dolphin Street. And it was cool because when it was Boom Boom Room at Red Dog, I would from time to time open whenever, Mark Grant or whatever resident DJ was out of town, I would fill in. And it was only one, and it was a building with 2 floors. But with Green Dolphin, you had a lot more space. You had the main room, you had the patio. We still didn't use the actual restaurant portion because it was a restaurant, but it was just the patio and it was the main room. And it was great because people weren't used to having something this spacious to dance and just have a good time. So Red Dog was always known, sorry, Boom Boom Room was always known for having whoever was in town, it didn't matter who it was, come hang out. I remember at Red Dog at North Avenue, all the people that were there, they would let Dennis Rodman, when he played for the Bulls, bartend. Carmen Electra was running around the building. I think I happened to bump into her once, a little short thing like this. Okay. I remember meeting James Gandolfini, Benicio del Toro, Forrest Whitaker, all these people that came into town, they were at Red Dog. So once the Boom Boom Room went over to Green Dolphin Street, it became more popular. Whenever somebody was in town and they wanted no one to know where the hell they were, they would go to Green Dolphin Street. I remember Matthew Broderick was there. Every single Monday, it was somebody that was there that was in town. And you're like, wow. I remember one night coming in, you see these guys playing a card game on a table. They had cards, like playing cards, and they had them folded, and they had stacks of money, and they were playing, I don't know what kind of game with cards. And the guys who were playing was Derek Jeter, Jason Giambi, and Alex Rodriguez, and they were all playing this thing. And that's how it was. Every single week, Monday, there was somebody that was in town. They would go there. They would hang out. They would go there, and it's like we had a patio, and you could open the doors to the patio, and you could hang out. And they had all these people that were hanging out
But
there.
the advantage that you had at Red Dog, excuse me, at Green Dolphin Boom Boom Room, is that if you open the patio, that's the river right there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's no people. I mean, and you're right there on Ashland and Webster.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's no neighbors to complain
No,
at.
There's no neighbors, and it's like I said. I mean, I remember meeting all sorts of people. And I remember one night, and the actually had a security, but could even say, yeah, this happened. At the end of the night, it's like 4:15, 4:30. I came up, and it's a guy wearing a red and black plaid shirt. I don't know who he was because he has his back turned. So I tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, sir, you got to go. We're closed. And he gets up. Head of security is like, he's cool, man. That's Heath Ledger. He's he's cool. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't get to shake his hand, whatever. A couple months later, passed away. But yeah, that's how it was. Every single week there was someone that was there.
Well, it was a ironic night on the Boom Boom Room because I remember I used to go there. So it started off as almost a gay night on Mondays over at
Yes,
Red Dog, but it became more than just a gay night. It became almost the industry night, if I remember mistaken. It became the industry night for industry people as well. It wasn't just about the gay, even though there was a lot of the gay people there, but since there was a lot of gay people in the industry, it became
yes,
an industry night.
yes, it
So
did.
anybody in the music industry was there,
Yes,
being a Latin, being a country, being a
yeah.
bartender owner.
Anybody that was in town, anybody that was who's who would come there because it was an industry night. But it was also a gay night, and that is the actual great thing that I have to admit. Out of all the nights that I worked at Red Dog, Boom Boom Room, and Green Dolphin, Boom Boom Room, I could probably, excuse me, on one hand count how many fights they had there because nobody fought. It was they came. Yeah, I mean, of course you had somebody that would get drunk and pass out, but that was it. You didn't have gang fights. You didn't have boyfriend and girlfriend fights. They were just partying and have a good time.
Right,
I mean,
right.
the like half of the staff they would look forward to it because it was great music.
And
They
great
were,
money too.
yeah, exactly. Bartenders made a shit ton of money because all these people they came in and they tipped well, and then they would have all these DJs. They would have and during during a time that Joey was running it by himself, he also decided to partner up with a gentleman named Arman, who ran Music 101. He, whatever his ties were, they would have DJs from all around the world. Whether if you had like Felix the House Cat, you had Bad Boy Bill, you had David Morales, Hector Romero, Junior Sanchez, all these DJs, they would come in, and if it was an event being done in cooperation with Joey and with Music 101, it was every single week. It was a who's who of coming in from out of town. There were some people that weren't popular, but they were popular like in their own little circles. But every single year, somebody different. So my job on those nights was to do whatever they asked. Hey, can you set this up? Hey, can you do that? Can you do that? So I got to meet a lot of people,
Right.
famous people, infamous people, and mind you, I once in a great while, whenever the residents were out of town, Mike Serafini, Diz, whatever, I would open the night, but that's when they were at whatever parties that were during what's that conference that happens every year in February?
Winter Music
Yeah,
Conference.
every single once a year, twice a year, I would open. But
Right.
it basically got that once, twice a year I play. So I was doing the whole entire sound, setting up the sound and mixing the bands. Then you had uh, Gabriel Segura and his uh, family come in to start doing events. And that's when,
That was on the weekends though. On the
yes,
weekends,
for the
right.
weekends, because they
Right.
were still doing the Boom Boom Boom, which was their, I mean, like I was at Green Dolphin for 12 years and it was there, what, 10 years, 11 years. And then they would do this stuff on the weekends. They would have Gabriel, he would do Saturdays, maybe like an occasional Friday. He would do a concert here and there on Friday. He would like bring in some '80s group, um, you know, Anything Box, Red Flag, sometimes a rock group. Sometimes he would bring in, I remember once they had Bellanova, they had Moenia, they had Zoe, they had all these groups that it was on a Friday, but it never conflicted with what they did on Saturdays because Saturdays was, solid. And then they decided to part ways because they went into greener pastures, and then they started doing uh, urban events. Let's just call it urban. I'm not going to go that way. So the urban events came, and that was basically that was the downfall of the place. It was a real nice place, but once you had that clientele, once you had that element, it was just sooner or later it was going to happen, where something would happen, some kind of tragedy would happen, and it did. And then they went through their things, and then that's when um, you know whatever the powers that be decided to put restrictions on them.
But
And
what happens with you though? Are you
hold
gone?
on,
Do you leave? Are you?
I'm gonna get to that. So once once that happened, and like once the actual hammer came down, that's when I was like, okay, I need to find something to do. I need to get a 9 to 5 job. So I started working a 9 to 5 job. Didn't really DJ that much, but I still kept in contact with people. So I remember one of my Viva, and the actual year like escapes me, but one of my one of my Viva friends says, "Hey, listen, a local DJ is giving me 90 minutes to play. Would you mind taking 45 minutes of that?" I'm like, "Sure, where's it at?" He goes, "It's at a bar named Bartenders." Sure. So I met a couple promoters. One, they call him Vampiro, uh, Antonio, and then another gentleman by the name of Julio Cesar. Got to meet them. They did their little parties at Bartender, and I got to meet a DJ, real good friend of mine, DJ Buff, Jose Manriquez, real nice guy. And I started working with them for a little bit, all because of Duende. And then I got to meet, which I didn't know he was a DJ, and I'm sure that you knew he was a DJ either. Because back in the day when I was working with Lewis and I was working with Joey, we used to go to a place called Prano Printing, North Avenue, and I don't know what what which other cross street it was. There were two graphic designers. There was a gentleman named Mario, there was a gentleman named Phil Delamora. Phil did a lot of Lewis's flyers, and he was also DJing at these parties at Bartender. He started doing events recently, like, and he's he's also asked me to gig here and there. So within like the last couple of years, that's basically what I've been doing. I still have the 9 to 5 job, and here and there, I get asked by Phil, or I get asked by one of my DJ friends that I met at Red Dog, David Britton. Whenever he does events, hey, you want to come and play with me? So I'm like, sure. So and even though that I don't have a residency, or even though I still from time to time DJ. Now, when when I worked with Joey and he was doing events at the House of Blues, which were Indian based, I met a gentleman that did security. It was Chris Decker. I remember Duende and I forgot who else. We were at Chris Decker's house. He had a cookout. He goes, "Hey, I want you to start working with me." Now back then I was doing this stuff working at the club. He goes, "No, I don't want you to do the sound. I want you to do security." I'm like, "Listen, the extent of my security was kicking somebody off stage because they were having DJ, or it was, hey, give me that girl that's cute. That was the extent of my security. So I was like, listen, man. He goes, look, you're never gonna have to use these. You're gonna have to use this more than anything. So started working with him. It was at the Aragon Ballroom,
Right.
and under a company named Luna. Luna had done security at Tropicana and a bunch of other
Yep.
places too.
Yep.
So started working with him there. We had a bunch of places. We had the Aragon Ballroom. We had Rosemont. All State Arena and all these places. And then we would do little spots here and there. So change always happens. And Chris was like, look, a company's coming in to take over. Luna's out. But since I brought you in, I want you to work with me. But there's a catch though. The gentleman that owns Luna doesn't want anyone working for both companies. Pigeonholing. I don't like that. So he goes, so you're gonna work with me, doesn't matter what, but you're gonna work with me, but you're gonna have to wait. So how long? Maybe 2 months. Because he says that if he catches anyone working for both companies, he's gonna fine us like $2,000. I'm like, come on. You're kidding me. He goes, no, he's kind of serious. I'm like, okay. Waited the 2 months. A lot of the people that worked for Luna jumped and worked with this company, which is Live Nation, big company, US.
Right.
So, and I felt bad for the people that didn't know that worked for Luna Security, because just like when we lost our gig at the Allstate, they didn't tell anybody like, hey, it's going to happen. They didn't tell nobody that they were going to lose their gig at the Aragon at all. They didn't say, hey, change is coming, we're going to lose our job. And I felt bad because there was like a lot of these people, this was their only source of income.
Right.
There was like people that looked like people's parents, and they were there. And I mean, they were there every single gig, whether if it was rock or if it was English, Spanish, they were there. But they never told them, hey, you're going to lose your job. So once it happened, I never got to see half those people anymore. Only the people that knew that were cool with the people that Chris and all the other supervisors, they stayed on. Everybody else, sorry. So I've been with Luna / Live Nation. We're going on, I want to say, maybe 6 or 8 years that I've been doing the security, working with Live Nation / Luna.
All right, so I was going to say, so that's currently what's happening with you. I mean, so you're still DJing for guest spots whenever people ask you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of.
Yeah.
But
whenever anybody asks me, hey, can you play? I'm like, sure. I mean, and music is whatever they.
And occasionally you ask to play somewhere too, like this picnic that we're doing.
Yeah, there's I seen you had on this flyer. You had a couple empty spots. I'm like, hey, you need any DJs? I'm like, sure. And and this like concept that you're doing has actually been real popular. Not like, to use your favorite word per se, not in your realm, but in other realms, like trendy people have like done this.
Well, I've done it before already, right? You know that I did it at the Humble Palace.
But mind you, I mean, like some of the local DJs have done it, and mind you, I've actually never been a part of it, but I've actually heard how like the concept is where you're in a room, they have other music playing, but it's not like heard, it's not audible, it's only through the headphones. So that's what.
Right.
And you were talking about that you actually get it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is something that's common. It's cool. Yes, granted, I understand people aren't used to having the music to only them, and vibing with everything around. It's solely them, so it's something that they're gonna have to get used to.
Well, also because of the situation we're in with the COVID.
Of course.
That's why we're doing it this way. So this way, I call it the bubble of people that you want to surround yourself with. That bubble, being it 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, or even 10 people. Let's say 10 people.
Exactly.
But you don't have to. Those 10 people don't have to be with those other 10 people or those 4 people and stuff like that. You can create your own little groups.
Mm-hmm.
And which card, but it doesn't break the whole scenario of your
social distancing and everything.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if you heard, we changed the name to social responsibility now because
that's
we're
what
trying to make
now.
Social responsible because we don't want I'm sorry to say this, but the COVID is a serious thing, and I don't know if you've heard, Florida now is getting another spike.
And I mean, there was an article that of a DJ that you happened to interview recently, Fernando, and he ended up posting it like on his page that there was a couple. They acted nonchalant, like if nothing was going on, it was normal. They went out to a bar and they didn't have masks on. Anyway, of course, it's hard for you to drink anything when you have a mask on, but they weren't practicing any of that stuff and they got sick. I mean, if you go look on his page, he actually has that, and that's what the problem is nowadays. Where, yes, I understand that it's something isn't that is not a joke. It's serious, and but if you follow all the guidelines and if you follow everything that doctors and not what our president is talking about, you'll be okay. I mean,
Well, here's another factor, and I was looking up some numbers, and just to give you an instance, state of Illinois has 6 billion people, right? So, and if you do the percentage of how many people got sick slash died, and then you look at North Dakota, North Dakota has little under 1 million people, but in the percentage, only 73 people actually died, and we don't even know if that 73 people is a true COVID.
Exactly.
Right. So that's a 0.00009%. Okay, that's a percentage that I can deal with in a sense of. So if somebody tells me, yeah, we're the mask and do social distancing, and you had that percentage 0.000, I wouldn't take it as serious. But when you go talk about Chicago, when you have the higher percentage, like,
see, and then I was also reminded of so there's a lot of people downstate, and I remember one of the actual cities downstate, Dixon, Illinois, that's like known for a prison and stuff like that. They were saying, look at our rate compared to Chicago. We have I forgot what the numbers are, but their numbers don't even compare anything to Chicago. And according to the governor's, standards or whatever he happens to require, that they have to wait. But the mayor of the city of Dixon, Illinois is like, no, look at our numbers compared to Chicago. Why do we have to wait? And I don't know what the follow-up to that is, but the mayor was going to meet with the governor and say, listen, we have met all the requirements. We have met, and I feel this is what the mayor is saying. I feel we shouldn't have to wait as long as you want us to wait in order to open up our restaurants, our businesses, because it's not
obvious. The obvious with the high numbers, you take those precautions. You more so.
Exactly.
Anybody who isn't, if it isn't affecting you, you got a 0.00009%. I mean, you could be walking down the street and there's that 0.0009% that you get killed.
Yeah, or something falling on you.
Right. I mean, nothing's guaranteed in life per se, but and that's what so I can understand the frustration that people have.
Yes.
All I'm doing for us in Chicago and what I'm doing with this picnic, and you get it, is that there's people that want to go out. People will still want to listen to music. We are in this industry, this music industry, and it's frustrating as well. But let's do it. Let's all do it responsibly. That's basically what I want to do, and I want to make sure that everybody, I've been in this business for 44 years. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I want to be around for another 44 years as well. and I want you guys as my customers to be around for 44 plus years, mm-hmm. God willing, everything and everybody else. But I would feel really shitty because if I was responsible for your death or anybody else that's my friend.
But this is the thing that I understand people are paranoid about this, but see what and I know people are going to fight me on this, but what the biggest problem is whenever they say somebody passed away, and of course people are going to fight me on this, half of the people that passed away, they had a underlying
agree.
And,
so
and mind you, I mean, You can go down the list of the people that have had it: Tom Hanks, Idris Elba, the NBA player, um, Rudy Gobert, and nothing happened to them.
Mm-mm.
And but on the contrary, something that happened recently, and it was all over the news, was Dick Johnson, Channel 5. He made a point, and he ended up putting it on his social media. Listen, um, I have it, and due to my medical conditions, I have to go. So I will see you guys soon. Never made it. It
Right.
took his life, but because he has a medical condition. And
Correct.
that's what that, and mind you, of course, I'm going to have people arguing with me the whole entire time, oh, you're wrong. But half of the time, all this thing is based upon how it reacts to your body. Everybody's going to get it, but it's how healthy you are, and whatever conditions you don't know that you have is how it's going to affect you. Now, every day when I'm, driving around doing my day job, I listen to a different perspective of things compared to like news. I listen to talk radio, but sports talk radio. One of the conversations that I have, of course, I'm going to be brief on this, that a lot of these sports leagues, they're already dealing with the fact that it's going to be a fact of life. They're going to get sick. It's a given. And they're just going to have to deal with it and move on in order for them to continue. Like, yes, I understand it's a bad way of thinking, but that's just the risk that they're going to have to take in order to move on. Yeah, it may mean that in basketball, LeBron James, Steph Curry may get it, but it doesn't mean that they're going to pass away unless they have an underlying condition, which of course they are
Well,
healthy.
anybody can die of an underlying condition. Doesn't have to be
True.
COVID. It could be
True.
people. People are dying of the flu,
Exactly.
emphysema, for asthma, asthmatic. Those are all factors which cause it. And I don't want us to get too much hyped on that, but nothing wrong with just the side of caution. That's all. That's all. That's all we want. I think just a little caution for yourself and a caution for the other people around you. That's it. I think that goes a long way, because that's why we practice washing our hands.
Yeah.
Washing your hands
so
is
bad that every year prior to this, I would wash my hands so bad that you would see my knuckles pink. You can see my knuckles right now; they're pink. But due to this situation now, they're almost pinker. I don't know if that's a word or not, but if you look at they're actually raw,
ah,
and it's sad because my coworkers are like, this is even last year, they're like, dude, your hands are so pink. I'm like, yeah, because I wash my hands
so you're a little germaphobe as it was, right?
see, with this, with the actual job that I have during the day, you get to encounter like a lot of things, people that are in the service industry, the auto service
Right.
industry. And yeah, granted, some of the guys that are technicians, they have a tendency not to be the most cleanliest people in the world. No
Right.
disrespect to anyone that is. It's just a fact of nature.
No,
So,
but that's what I'm just saying. It's the okay. I'll give you for instance, and this is something personal. I'm going to tell you. I remember when they decided to open up the pedicure and nail salons, right?
yes,
And I said to myself, "Oh, cool," because I know when I got my pedicure and nails done, they were already practicing the with the glass
yeah,
shades and
yeah,
the mask, and
yeah,
they were all sanitized. They were
yeah,
practicing. So I said, "Oh yeah, if there's something I want to do is go ahead and get a pedicure and a manicure right away, because they've already practiced it even
yeah,
before this COVID."
exactly.
So So I mean, so that and that's because if you really think about it, a lot of the neo Islam they were the Asian culture. So
Yeah.
they had that culture already built in that that's the way they were. And I think that's what's happened for us. We have to change our mindset, just like what happened in the Asian culture, is that with the mask and just being a little bit more cautious. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we need it. We've always needed it. It's just that the viruses kicked us in the ass and said, "Wake up!" That
Exactly.
was basically it.
Exactly.
Hey, it's coming out to almost an hour and a half that we've been on. I know it goes quick. I know it
No,
goes quick. Marco, is there any with everybody signing on? You want to say any last words for these people that for the
uh,
interview?
just thanks for giving me the opportunity to be on. Yes, I know that I was the subject of a lot of people's comments and your previous interviews. So thank you guys, and I hope I didn't forget anybody, whether if it was DJ Chicago,
Per se,
Mr. Mr. Wonderful, Victor Salazar, who, oh, by the way, anyone that's this is real quick. Victor Salazar does something nightly. It's called the
yeah,
final sessions.
right.
Um, One thing that I've taken, it's kind of funny. I've I've like become the official, unofficial like radio song announcer for his like streams. So these people were like amazed. They're like, how is it that you know every song? Well, I used to DJ and I know his library too. So anyway, long story short, he said, let's do a night dedicated to what you want to hear. So I've been, putting together a list and
Oh
following
my God,
this.
that's got to be a big list.
Oh, everywhere, English, Spanish. I trust me. Victor's like, wow. So, but yeah, after this, if everybody goes to Vinyl Session Chicago, I mean, I don't know if he's gonna do it all because it's a like massive list. But if these guys are willing or log on and listen to whatever he's gonna play that I've sent him, we're going 70s, we're going 80s, we're going a little bit of modern, we're going Spanish rock, we're doing a little bit of, banda, a little bit of, everywhere, all like almost like a, traveled through time of all the music that I've, listened to and liked growing up. But yeah, that's happening tonight after this. So if you guys log into
All right,
Final
well,
Session
cool,
Chicago,
cool. That's good to know. All right, Marco, thank you very much, everybody. I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to Marco. And we'll see you all again tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Thank you, Marco. Appreciate it.
good night, guys.